So you were very much impressed by the amount of work that the community had done in locating the health services building and the.
I mean, I've always admired the Millennium Group and I still do think the health department should be centrally located. I'm not going to dismiss the work that they have done, but I also understand where our consensus can be, and I'm just showing that
How much importance do you put in terms of community involvement?
I think community involvement there's no reason for us to do a litmus test, Mr. Barton. The plan is going to be where the board's at.
What does that mean, litmus test?
I mean, you're adding several items to this. I think the Millennium Group have done an excellent job with that Heritage Center. I think they've done lots, and they've had great fundraisers before COVID happened. They had so many efforts, and we've contributed to that.
And really, it's quite remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
What they have done.
And we need to support them more.
And to see some things like this being done in other parts of our community would be wonderful. It's a wonderful precedent. Do you think?
We've done this precedent in Walton's Museum, Livingston Community Center, Rockfish Valley Community Center.
And I think we should continue to do so.
Sure. Let's see what the rest of the board has.
Would it be, I understand there was a meeting yesterday with the Building Inspections Office and the Millennium Group? No?
We've spoken to Ms. Burdette previously about the plans that were submitted.
Gotcha.
So I can clarify this appropriately.
If you could, yes.
Yes,
I was under the impression there was a meeting yesterday to make sure
We
that,
had an internal meeting with the
Come.
if you could,
Yeah,
because
we
we're
can't
on
hear you.
YouTube video, they're recording.
So members of the subcommittee at the Millennium Group that's working on this project in particular had a meeting with the architect and the construction company based on the review that we received from Mr. Miller's office through and Mr. Carter in regards to our initial plans. So we had a meeting to ensure that the questions that were being asked and the issues that were being raised would be that we could address and could still meet within our timeline.
I've got, it's a county project, and we've got, with very little input, there's a group that's trying to make that happen. And I know they're looking for the best interest of them, which having a tenant in that building would mean a whole lot to them. But we've got to make sure that we doing the right thing for the county and the people of the whole county. I mean, the one thing about the location, I'll tell you, not but a mile or so from the county line. And from my end, all the way up there, you're looking at 30, 35 miles. That's not the main factor, but I mean, it's just, again, we're getting ahead of we've got somebody getting ahead of us that, is trying to serve their interests, and we just got to make sure that the county's interest is being served.
Certainly. Carter.
If I may, again, sort of awkward for me, but in any event, one thing I didn't say, but hopefully the board understands this, that in a county project, once the debt is retired, those lease payments come directly to the county. That would be revenue for the county. Anybody else that's holds a lease agreement that's non-governmental, that's revenue the county and the state are continuing to pay. So that's in a sense an advantage for the county to build and operate this facility.
Well, it goes back to the thing I've frustrated the whole time. Looks like every time we give one of these schools away, we end up leasing it back. I think we got a long ways to go to get to the point of starting building.
I think though, that, in leasing those, back, that Rockfish and, Elfman Center and hopefully these other schools accrue great benefits to the county. I mean, they are important, the Rockfish Center is an important part of that part of the county. And the Nelson Center is an
But it
important
stands
part.
by itself.
That's what they want to do. They want to stand by themselves.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's not like we are actually doing everything and then paying to operate it. If that's the case, then we should have kept it for ourselves and operated from our standpoint.
Well, certainly that could have happened, but given the way that things have turned out, the Nelson Center has become a great example of the community stepping up with the Community Development Foundation. It houses our Parks and Rec Department. And, nothing is free. We have to pay for it one place or another. And to have a place that is a community center that goes hand in hand with county services, I think is a wonderful model to follow.
Any other thoughts?
I don't 100% agree with that. I agree to part of it, Ernie, but I don't agree with the whole scenario.
I'd like to hear from building inspections on their thoughts on
Mr. Miller,
the proposal. If you had a chance to review anything
can you
in
come,
your office?
forward?
Charles Miller with Building Inspections. I have reviewed the plans preliminary, as I originally told Wall Construction that until you actually submit a building permit, an application, I'm not going to review the plans. It's just not the process, the way it goes. As a courtesy to the county, I went ahead and did that and gave them a copy of just preliminary right now what I saw. There are some things that need to be done on the plans to make it code compliant. What other questions do you need? I mean, some of my concerns, firewalls, supporting for that, separation between, is still an E, a school. The occupancy has never changed. And they're going to a B in the center, and they have an E on the other side. So there's some issues with firewalls in there that need to be addressed from the foundation all the way up. There's things that need to happen with HVAC. The plans don't show anything for HVAC in there. That's got to be code compliant to bring it up to 2018 and Virginia Energy Code, along with the building code for the 2018 commercial code. So there's some tweaking that needs to be done to it.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Miller?
Yeah, my point was, we're close to making a decision.
Sure.
What we're gonna do. I mean, it's
Yeah, as it relates to the health
a
department.
whole lot of,
And that may be a scenario this board needs to take a step back from the health department conversation, see what comes to fruition, because they're probably several weeks to a month of getting a building permit potentially, if not longer, depending on design, structural engineers, geotechs, whoever that might be. I do think what we don't have to do, you're good, Mr. Miller. Okay, thank you. What we don't need to do is slow down the social services portion. I do believe there's a potential that we can act on that and not act on the health department portion.
if you go build a building, if we go build a building and put both of them in, then it needs to be done together. I mean, I don't see,
What other building, I mean, the McGinnis building has real questions, right? What other offices could we couple with the social service?
nothing.
Not really.
You're not big enough.
You have to have a lot of jobs.
Yeah, you're maxed out now. So,
If I could, just piggybacking on the building inspections comments, I'd like to hear comments from Mr. Wall, if that's appropriate.
Sure, absolutely. Come on up,
David,
sir.
if you wouldn't mind sharing your thoughts on,
Did we include our architect?
Send him on up.
Mr.
Sure.
Wall to speak?
If y'all could state your names for the record.
David Wall
Construction. Yeah. Certainly.
More architecture.
Absolutely.
so I would just like to hear your thoughts on, what the building inspection process is bringing to light.
I can speak to that.
Okay,
Thank you, Chuck, for that preliminary review, and that's what it is, part of this process. John Nett, she submitted the drawings in a formal application today that Mr. Miller will review for code compliance. And what happens in this process, that he will review it sheet by sheet, review it according to the Virginia Construction Code, and respond his findings back to me. And I will look at them, review that, and then respond to Mr. Miller's questions, concerns, clarifications. And then he and I will get together and sort of come to an agreement if the building meets code and its life safety has been secured for that particular structure. Once all that happens, and we agree that this building is safe for its occupancy, then what we'll do, if there's any comments that addresses a change to the drawings that need to happen, then we will make that change at that point, and then resubmit back to the county for a final building permit, which will also serve as the contract between the Millennium Group and Wall Construction. So that's just part of the process. We're moving right along. Like I said, Jeanette submitted the application today. If the process is moved forward in good faith, we should have a quick turnaround. Chuck,
Well, address the board if you could. It probably wouldn't take a month or so, or a few weeks. to
yeah,
get going.
once we get those comments back, address it, review our budget and get everything finalized and get an agreement between Wall Construction
Certainly.
and Millennium Group, then we're ready to have a groundbreaking ceremony.
Sure, okay.
I guess to answer your question, David, about schedule in the email we saw, Kelvin has addressed all the issues from Mr. Miller. And I guess you, like you said, you're gonna send that back to Mr. Miller.
Can you put a mask down so we can understand you?
So we filed for the permit today, and what, I have a project manager that reached out to Mr. Miller, just trying to go through the process in Nelson County. You guys don't do a plan review until we file for permit. Different localities do it different ways, but that does, we need to get that permit secured. We've done that, so we can get a full review from Mr. Miller to move through that. But looking at your schedule concerns, I don't see any major schedule concerns, and we've also built in budget contingency to get through the review process with the building inspector. And Kelvin and I went through his comments together. We did that Monday.
We did that Monday, and I think the preliminary review was to see from that review, preliminary review or initial review, was there anything that we saw that would add a tremendous cost to this project that would prevent it from moving forward? And we reviewed it and we didn't find anything. The firewalls that's common for code and things like that, so we're gonna address that and comply with the code, so we're okay with that.
Certainly.
And the other thing too, about schedule again, once we get to the building permits review and address those concerns for a final permit set. One thing that I've done this week in particular is went to my long lead time subs, about long lead time material, storefront, doors, air handlers. Obviously, COVID has made the supply chain issues long. So we went through that process early this week to make sure that our subs understood our low bid subs. As we put this out for bid, on constructing a bid clerk, all those new, commercial bid services, and went through that process in November. So we are prepared to move and secure contracts with our subcontractors, and I do understand lead times. If we start, the biggest concern that I had was making sure that we could source materials. Because what we're gonna do is turn over a substantial complete building by November 1st to do the punch out, final inspections. And then by December 1st, we gotta have the other part moving in to be able to be able to turn the building over by the 31st to meet the needs of the community.
Gotcha.
So.
All right.
But if you address the fact, this is a school,
Yes, sir.
and we're gonna turn it into a commercial facility, open to the public. Has all of that been addressed?
Well, the good thing is the school was built with non-combustible materials to start with, so that really does actually help you get it into a commercial space. If it was a residential or multifamily wood frame, we'd have a lot of more issues to do with firewalls. And the bill inspector made some good comments about that, and we are going to address them. But luckily, this building is a non-combustible. I mean, it's metal stud framing, raft. I mean, it's a commercial building. And what we're going to do to demo it, you know, like the windows we're putting in a commercial storefront system. So we're using commercial grade materials to meet the code and the fire ratings and everything. So yeah, I don't have a concern with it being in school. I think that helps the situation.
Do you have any idea of what it would? And I'm sure you could do by the square foot if we built a new.
Yeah, it would be, to build a new one would be double what we're spending on the renovation. You got foundations, roof. You know, we are salvaging a lot of the building itself, but your cost of construction has been out of control. And I mean, getting this thing done, if it's a critical thing for you guys to have a health department in another space by the end of the year, going through the design, and I saw architectural, probably that's a preliminary schematic level, and I know that the bill inspector wants to get a final permit set. I would agree with him, but we're much closer to moving this project than trying to start ground up with the design, the bid process for the state of Virginia. You're talking maybe luckily starting construction in the summer, and this is a new construction project is around 8 to 12 months. So, and cost, I mean, it's gonna cost. The numbers that they showed, I think they're fairly accurate. We're gonna spend about $740,000 to do this project, and you guys are spending $3.8 million. You know, cost of construction is, especially for a new building, it's going to be up there double.
Thank you guys so
Thank
much.
you.
So, and then a point for the board to consider is, are we still too early to make a decision? You know, I'd like to get some input on that. I do concur with Mr. Harvey. We're still a month away from getting anywhere closer. What is the pleasure of the board?
I mean, it was on our agenda to make a decision last month. The only reason we didn't is because we requested this meeting we're having right now.
Sure.
We were gonna make a decision last month.
Certainly.
Well, I don't see any benefit in making a decision today, with possibly the exception of getting a more detailed standalone social service building plan together. I just wanted to note two other things in this. One of them is that there are benefits of having a standalone social services facility and not having it in conjunction with something else, which has to do with both security and the emotional stigma of dealing with social services. So that is something that is worth considering. Also, a health department building is really not, it's really a state building. It's a state facility. It really is not a county facility, even though it serves the county. So, so I think that having taking the time that we need to allow the Heritage Center to move forward, I think is good, because as long as they're moving forward on this, I see no reason for us to do it at the same time.
Well, Ernie, we are doing this building, not the center out there. I mean, it looks like to me we need to get that settled first. And you're talking about you can't have other things in there. Are they gonna give up everything they can do in there now and limit it?
There's no need to have them together. I mean, months ago, I brought up the fact that coupling the two together was not necessarily in the best interests of each of them. Financially, because you're doing two instead of one, there may be an advantage, but not in terms of the services. So, I'm just so grateful for the powerful presentation that the Millennium Groups made today. I feel very good about it. I certainly want to see that go forward. And I certainly want to see a home for our Department of Social Services. And it seems like we've got the best of both worlds here. We've got something that serves the community well as serving the county.
it doesn't serve the community well. It doesn't serve 90% of the county. I mean, for that end of that, it does serve it well. I don't know, like we do the dumbest, I mean, every one of these buildings we've done something with, and we end up coming back and leasing them back, and
I'm confused on your comment. You said that earlier. What do you mean by we're gonna be leasing it back?
well, you can be paying for the space that they're using.
Well, the state is, not,
No,
It's county.
the county's paying for the space of the health department.
It's a split cost. The state pays approximately
Like
just
40.
under 60%, the county pays
46.
just under 40.
Right.
So it's about 60-40.
Yeah.
That's my point about the advantage of the county and the state with the county facility. After the debt's paid, that money still comes back to the county.
All right, board, so,
I just think we need to get together and get some understanding of it. Have the whole thing, I mean, it's really
no need to make an action if you don't.
no set thing of how it's gonna work.
Okay, so on this particular item, we don't have to make any motions. We don't have a resolution in here. We can consider this at a later date for social services and health department. That may be a better opportunity or idea.
And I don't mean wait months.
No,
I'm ready to,
let's maybe in the budgets, if the budget session kicks up, well, is it, I don't think budget sessions will kick in before February meeting.
no,
but-
I'm ready to be, right away on.
Okay.
How much does the health department weigh in on this whole thing?
That's
The
what,
question's been asked for 2 years.
yeah. We've asked the same question of, do they want to be anywhere? And we can only get comments that they can't go public on, basically, that,
So they will listen to us. But we
Sure.
want to have the health department.
Sure. Which card?
We build the building, then they use it.
Yeah, they've essentially said if we,
But they have I have seen no objection to, the school down at the Urban Center.
Mr. Carter is the only one who's had correspondence that I'm aware of.
I've talked to them over the past 2 years about this. They are in a position of having to be fair, and I don't think either Dr. Bonds or the Department of General Services staff feel comfortable or ethically can come tell the board, this is what we prefer. I certainly know what they prefer, but I really don't like being put in a position of, in a sense, that the county's competing with, particularly today, with the Millennium Group. It's awkward, but I'm certainly happy to tell the board that, but I prefer not maybe to do it in closed session.
Certainly. Just give us 1 second. 1 second. I think we're getting.
If I may,
Yeah.
the process works like this. The Millennium Group has addressed the state's request, or they're in the process of doing so, request for proposals. If the board decided to construct a facility that included the health department, we would also have to make a submittal to the state, to the Department of General Services. The county ultimately doesn't decide. We've asked for what is the county's authority, but essentially the Department of General Services is the state entity that leases properties for the state. So the board could have input, but ultimately DGS is going to decide on the lease agreement. And not even the health department, they have input too, but DGS will decide based on all their criteria for the health department's facility, the cost, the annual cost to pay the lease agreement, et cetera. The board's role basically is to decide, does the county build a facility or not? If you don't, then the process will continue as is.
So the question comes down to, are we to consider this at a later date? Do we, want to consider this as just one building, social services? We need some guidance from the board.
I think we need a dedicated meeting.
Dedicated.
We do it one night, and that's all we here for.
Okay.
Is to work at those two options.
What does the rest of the board think?
And does the Millennium Group, are they responsible going out and getting the money? Do they go out and borrow the money, or
We're not privy to that.
Yeah, that's
That's
what
been
I'm
my
saying.
assumption, but
they
I
ain't
don't
gonna
know.
just show up?
Right.
And we're not in it that far that we need.
We don't need to know.
No, but I mean, that's a consideration too.
All right. So does the board want to have a singular meeting just to discuss social services and health department?
I really don't think that's necessary. I think that we could move forward with a proposal for a standalone social services building and allow the Heritage Center the ability to move forward on what they're doing.
If there are motions that we believe, and with staff comment, make sure it's proper.
I think there's enough concern of board members that I think the subject deserves more conversation, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know that we want
I would not be at all comfortable with sending a message that we are not both grateful and supportive of the work that the Heritage Center is doing by continuing to move this to another meeting. But I will do so if that's a concern.
Yeah.
and I'm sorry that you feel that's the message that's being sent, because we're not gonna vote we're either gonna vote to build a building, or we're not gonna vote at all. So not voting on it does not delay anything for any other group.
So their process will still continue with the health
Exactly.
department.
Voting on something could. So I think it's better that we have a deeper conversation about how we want to proceed with social services.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to move that we get with architectural partners to get the costs and plans for a standalone social services building on the same location where we have considered the dual building.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
Wait a minute, Aaron. Are you talking about across the road?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree that would be helpful information to have for the meeting that's proposed.
I thought we had that.
Getting the social services
What the
info.
cost of what.
Right, would help.
Yeah.
with
And get the
conversation.
debt service plan for that directly, and with the $1 million concept payoff. I think that would be good.
What's the motion?
The motion is to move forward with a singular DSS building located on the county land, wherever proper, near Blue Dog.
Not exactly, that wasn't, the motion was to
sorry.
move forward with architectural partners.
Architecture partners preparing,
Information
moving
on
forward.
that topic.
Sure.
That's correct.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do that. And that comes with the fiscal side of that as well. So that is the motion. And we have a second from
But
Mr.
you're only addressing one part of the
Right,
part deal.
yeah, we
We've
can
been
make it,
addressing the other two, this is just giving.
this is just getting rid of one out of the
I mean,
way.
we've
And
addressed the two parts,
would we like to do that on a singular meeting, just to knock it out?
yes.
Yeah, we'll set a special meeting either in January or in February to address just directly.
January.
January,
Yeah.
we'll get it done
Don't
quick.
think it's cheap.
Motion and second has been made. No more discussion. Ms. Bybee, if we could do a vote?
Mr. Barton,
Yes.
Mr. Harvey,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Carter,
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford.
Yes. Okay, so one item done. Is there any further motions that need to be made on this subject, or are we just? Or we can move on? Board okay with moving on? I don't want to hear any.
No farther ahead than wherefore we got here.
That's true. We haven't dug any footage
No
yet.
progress whatsoever.
Okay,
5-minute break.
yeah, we'll do a 5-minute recess. Thank you all. I need to go to the bathroom.